Good evening and welcome to the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board. My name is Roberta Mayer. I'm the chair of the board and represent Subdistrict 10. I'm going to ask those board members who are here tonight to introduce themselves, starting at my far right with Herb.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Herb, and let's have a good, quick meeting.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Pugh, Subdistrict 7. My first full meeting and looking forward to tonight.
I'm Greg Knutson at large.
Sam Wolf, Subdistrict 4, which are the Hahaione condo towers.
I'm Gene Tierney, Subdistrict 8.
And sitting to my right is Jeffrey Jones, who is our neighborhood board assistant this evening. We do have a couple of board members who are participating online. So would you say hello, Chelsea?
Hello, Chelsea Che at large. Glad to be here.
All right, Dixon. Dixon, are you there? And I believe there'll be two other board members that will join us online. So we do have a quorum. We are a 15-member board, and we require 8 members to be able to do business. We do have a quorum, and we're going to get started with our status reports, starting first with the Honolulu Fire Department. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm firefighter Oshiro from the Hawaii Kai Fire Department. So these are the statistics for May 2024. For fires, we had 0 structure fires, 0 wildland brush fires, 0 nuisance, which is fires include rubbish fires outside a structure or vehicle. We had 0 cooking fires, and we had 10 activated alarms, no fires. And for our emergencies, we had 92 medical calls, 0 motor vehicle collision with pedestrian, 7 motor vehicle crash collision, 2 mountain rescues, 2 ocean rescues, and 2 hazardous materials incidents. And fire safety tip and announcement for the month is power outages. So Hawaii is fire prone with year-round risk for wildfire. Hazardous weather conditions, especially during hurricane season, which is June 1st to November 30th, will increase the risk. HFD encourages everyone to proactively protect themselves. Your property, protect yourselves, your family, and your property through advanced planning, understanding, and preparation. In the event of a power outage, remember these safety tips. So number 1 is build a 14-day disaster supply kit. So take inventory of the items you need that rely on electricity. Plan for batteries and other alternative power sources to meet your needs when the power goes out. Know your medical needs, devices, refrigerated medicines. A general list is available online at honolulu.gov/them. Using appliances during power outages, avoid carbon monoxide poisoning generators. Camp stoves or charcoal grills should always be used outdoors, at least 20 feet away from windows. Turn off or disconnect appliances, equipment, or electronics that may be damaged during possible momentary power surges or spikes. For more tips and detailed information, you can visit ready.gov/power/outages. And starting July 1st, HECO will commence their Public Safety Power Shutoff, PSPS program to reduce the risk of wildfire. As one component of their 3-phase wildfire safety strategy, HECO may preemptively shut off power in identified high-risk areas during periods of forecast high winds and dry conditions. This program is being utilized as their last line of defense to keep communities safe and may result in extended power outages. A PSPS could last several hours or up to several days. The HFD and HECO will continue to work with Board of Water and other city, state, and federal agencies to lessen impacts from PSPS. So visit hawaiianelectric.com for more information.
Thank you. Are there questions for the Honolulu Fire Department? I do have one question. If in your travels in the community, you see a property that is overgrown with brush, and particularly when it starts to get dry during the summer, do you make any kind of house call to note that the resident should take some measures with their yard?
We do not that I know of. Yeah, it's not, that's not part of the Honolulu Fire Department's kind of coverage, I guess. But I mean, you could, contact fire.honolulu.gov and, report to them and see if there's something they can look into. But yeah, it's not really our jurisdiction.
Okay, so the community or a concerned citizen could make a call to the fire department and ask the fire department to look into a possible fire hazard in a at a residence.
No, that's not really our jurisdiction. I mean, maybe if it's something that's an actual like hazard, but if it's just brush or like overgrown, I mean, that's really just the homeowner's responsibilities. Yeah.
Okay, I know it would be very difficult, but we're all very concerned about possible wildfires. And so if everybody doesn't do their part, it increases the risk for everybody else. But thank you very much for coming and sharing the reports with us tonight.
One follow-up.
Oh, yeah. Follow-
As we look at the 10-day forecast in advance, is there a certain wind speed or temperature that you're looking for to trigger this, that we could prepare in advance, that know it may be coming 4 or 5 days out?
Good question. Off the top of my head, the hurricane wind is. Yeah, that's definitely something we can look into and get back to you on as far as the exact number for the wind speed that we're looking at.
Okay, yeah, if you could share that with us maybe next month, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the Honolulu Police Department online?
Aloha, Lieutenant Taro Nakamura with the Police Department. These are stats for May as compared to the previous month. Okay, let's see. Motor vehicle thefts were 2 as compared to 5. Burglaries it's just 1 compared to 5. Thefts in general were 6 as compared to 14. And UEMVs, which is theft from autos, was 34 as compared to 25. This out of total calls of service of 6,450 for the district, and further statistical information can be found at honolulupd.org. And our safety tip for the month, basically in line with what HFD, their safety tip, it's just a reminder that hurricane season has started. I sent you folks the printout from honolulu.gov, Department of Emergency Management. The one thing I think it's good to remind ourselves is, even if we don't have a hurricane that rises to the level of even a Category 1, Hawaii being Hawaii, we can have high winds, storm surges, heavy rain that can be almost just as destructive as an actual hurricane. So when something strange weather is coming, I mean, if you look at what's going on the mainland, there's a lot of strange weather these last couple years. Yeah. If we can all chip in to try to be as best prepared as we can, that would be the most prudent thing to do. But that's our safety tip for the month.
All right, are there any questions for the Honolulu Police Department? Anybody from the audience or online? All right, no questions, Lieutenant. Thank you very much for being with us tonight and providing your report.
Aloha. Yeah, take care.
Thank you. We're going to be moving on to Board of Water Supply with Iris Oda. Welcome, Iris.
Everyone, good evening. I'm just here to report. I usually have main break reports, but there was none in May. I have one general announcement. It's our annual water quality reports. So we work hard to ensure that water is served to our customers and it's safe to drink. So each year we conduct thousands of tests on the water sources and the distribution system to ensure that it meets or exceeds the federal and state safe drinking water standards. So these tests are shared with customers in our annual water quality report, and it should be mailed to all customers by July 1st. So hopefully you guys must have gotten it by now or very shortly. Digital copies and additional water quality information is available at boardofwatersupply.com. And if you want to call for information, you can call 808-748-5041. And I just have my status report for the Kalama Valley water system improvements. So I left the flyer on top of for each member, and there's also a flyer on the table if you wanted to see the map of the Kalama Valley water system improvements and the service lateral replacements in Kalama Valley. So it's looking like it's going to start shortly. I've heard from the residents that there's some cones and some things out on the road already. So I'll see what I can report next month on the status. And if there's any questions, new questions?
Questions for the Board of Water Supply? Iris, do you know how long this project is expected to take?
On the
Kalama Valley one.
the Kalama Valley, on the last page or second, it says it's anticipated to be completed in the fourth quarter of 2025. So back the second page, almost the last sentence. So fourth quarter of 2025 is the anticipated
So
date.
a year and a half.
Yeah. Hopefully not weather. Oh,
Go ahead, Greg.
So I'm just looking at this map again. It says Part A, Kalama Valley Water System Improvements, Part 2. Okay, so it's Part A, Part 2. I don't know what those improvements are, but then it's not listed until Part B, Service Lateral Replacements in Kalama Valley. I thought that was what was going to proceed at this stage. So what is the difference between Part A and Part B?
you know what? I just printed it out. Sorry. I thought it was color coded for the two different, but they're going to be, if you look at the description, that might help, but I'll look at a better map for next month. And hopefully the residents, you guys got a flyer that might have been
Well,
better.
I'll
Reference?
look again to see if it has more detail, but it's confusing with this handout. It doesn't say. And it seems like more of the streets are highlighted now, so it's more like a combined thing.
Yeah.
Because the lateral replacements were only going to be in a certain area.
Yeah. A lot of times when they do the water lines, they will do the laterals at the same time. So it probably may be the same.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I was hoping.
And I'll double
was-
check. Yeah.
I would hope it wouldn't be tear it up once and then tear it up again.
Yeah, no, they typically do it together, but I will go and check it out and report next month.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for the Board of Water Supply? Seeing none, thank you very much, Iris, for joining us tonight. Next on our agenda is the Kaiser Complex of Schools, and here to make their report is Principal Shannon Gu.
Good evening, Neighborhood Board. Thank you very much for having me. Just like to share a few updates, and not much going on in the summer, but actually teams are pretty busy behind the scenes. One big event that was held at Kaiser High School was the Special Olympics that was held on June 7th and 8th. So pretty amazing athletes, also strong service-minded volunteers from Kaiser, also Haheone and some of the other schools, just volunteering their time to make that happen. That was a great event. International Baccalaureate, we've had some high quality leadership training this last week. And so we just try to stay at the cutting edge of education. I tallied up all of the years of service all of our administrators have in the Kaiser complex, and it adds up to 75 plus years of administrator leadership experience within the Kaiser complex of schools. And that's even more outside of the complex of schools. But just want to say that we have a ton of stability here in our schools. Wanted to highlight a couple of graduates, graduates from Kaiser High School. Jacob Heberly, who is a Harvard graduate, and then Stephanie Spear, who is a Yale graduate who now is at Berkeley pursuing a law degree. A few actually personnel announcements. Although we have some shifting, we maintain stability in our leadership, but we want to say big mahalo to Principal Laura Ahn. She has taken a leadership position in the state at the training office. It's called PDERI. And that is, so she is the principal of New Valley Middle School, and she ends her tenure on Friday. So thank you for all of hard work. And she also was named I believe it was the 2022 Principal of the Year. On that note, we also say aloha and mahalo to Anthony Gayer, who's vice principal, longtime vice principal of Aina Haina Elementary School. He also served as vice principal at Kaiser High School and temporary principal at Kaiser High School, as well as their football coach back in the day. So we want to say a big mahalo as he retires from the DOE. And we also welcome, we don't skip a beat, and CAS Complex Area Superintendent, Dr. Rochelle Mahoy, has named Principal Jeffrey Shitaoka as principal of New Valley Middle School. He has been a longtime principal at Cocoa Head Elementary for over 13 years, so he brings a lot of experience. He also served as a vice principal and actually started the International Baccalaureate program, was part of it at New Valley Middle School when he was a vice principal there. So just want to say congratulations to him. And he's going to make a wonderful leader at the middle level and join all of our principals together, connect them, and we will be, just as strong as ever. Thank you for having me speak. I'd like to open it up to any questions you have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Gu? Mr. Gu, so they have not named the new principal for Cocoa Head Elementary at this time.
Yeah, not just yet. So that announcement was made today for New Valley Middle School, and so now they'll advertise that Cocoa Head position.
Okay, so you'll report at another meeting.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you very much for being here with us during the summer. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving right along, we're going on to community announcements. Are there members of the board or the community who would like to share an announcement with the larger community? Come on up.
Aloha. Thank you, Chair. My name is Lisa Bishop. I'm with Friends of Hanauma Bay, and I'm here to share some great news. After 10 years, Friends of Hanauma Bay has settled with the city and county of Honolulu its dispute over the city's handling of the Hanauma Bay Fund. And it is great news for Hanauma Bay. The city has returned $5.261.5 million as a lump sum to the Hanauma Bay Fund, effective the end of this fiscal year, so 30 June. It has been a long journey, and we cannot thank this administration under Mayor Blangiardi's leadership and Mike Formby. But we also would like to thank this neighborhood board and the community of Hawaii Kai, who has been staunchly supportive of Friends of Hanauma Bay throughout these past 10 years and staunchly supportive of all of our efforts, basically for the last 30 years of our existence. Without your support, we couldn't have done this. And we are so grateful and humbled that you have been supportive of our efforts. As you know, we're a very small, all volunteer organization. And it's been really a joy to finally work with an administration at the city and county who was willing to work with us. And the Lungiardi administration did that. We met with the mayor and the managing director in January of 2020. And they promised us that we would resolve this with them, and they delivered, and we really appreciate that. In addition of the funding being repatriated to the Hanauma Bay Fund, and in our opinion, it's equally as important. We have been welcomed part of the leadership team with the city and county to help manage future efforts to plan the budget for Hanauma Bay. And as a matter of fact, we've already sat down with DPR Director Thielen and BFS Manager Andy Cabano and looked at what's necessary in the next fiscal year, FY25, and working with Councilmember Tommy Waters, who has been so helpful. We've already inserted 500,000 of this new money already into the FY25 budget to help start immediately to have funding available for some long delayed and necessary infrastructure repairs and maintenance at Hanauma Bay. So we are being welcomed as a team play member of the team with this city and county administration to help plan and actually remediate some of the issues at Hanauma Bay that have been longstanding. So I want to thank the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board, Council Member Tommy Waters, Representative Jean Ward, who has always been so supportive of our efforts, and the whole community who has been supportive of the Friends. Thank you so much. We are really grateful for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that with us. Did you say it was 5.2 million?
5.261.5.
All right, thank you so much.
Almost 5.3 million. But importantly, one lump sum, it's in the Hanauma Bay Fund. It's not going to be paid over time. It's in there now.
Wonderful. Questions for Lisa? Yes, Jean?
Can you give us a quick update on how the coral's doing now that the pandemic is?
I'm sorry, can you? repeat
Can you
that?
give us a quick update on how the corals are doing?
Yes, the corals, at least the corals that we funded as part of the restoration project a year ago, they're doing fine. The 6 modules are growing well, and they're already growing out and becoming part of the substrate that's there. So that's a good improvement, and that's the first coral restoration project ever done at Hanauma Bay and funded by donations from a private funder and the community to Friends of Hanauma Bay to do coral restoration at Hanauma Bay. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Sam?
Well, first of all, congratulations on a long-awaited settlement, and on behalf of my family, and I'm sure many
Oh,
local families, we really appreciate all the efforts that you do to protect Hanauma Bay and keep it thriving in perpetuity. Aside from the 500,000 for
500,000 for the next fiscal year.
correct for the infrastructure improvements, does the city or Friends of Hanauma Bay have a vision for the rest of the 4.7 million and some
Yes, we
initiatives?
do actually. And that's additional money from what the city had already budgeted for, had already introduced in the FY25 budget. So they had already put in $1.66 million to upgrade the sewage system there. So the city had already budgeted for additional maintenance items. We just wanted to bring in an additional 500,000 of this repatriated money in addition to what the city had already planned on doing as baseline maintenance and repairs. So to give them an additional boost. Yes, the city says they have plans, but now we get a chance to look at what their plans actually are. And we get a chance to come in and say, well, we need to do this and do that with this extra money. So we're there to drive a spur into plans. And we're also there to say, no, Hanauma Bay doesn't need to wait 6 months to bring a plumber in to fix a leaky faucet, which is the city's modus operandi. We're there to say, no, we need to do it faster and better, and we need to take advantage of other methods of repair and maintenance. So, but now we get a seat at the table. And that's why I said it was so important.
Well, something that I would like to see, just from my experience there, are staffers, or ideally staffers, but potentially volunteers that are monitoring people that are trampling over the reefs. Because even though there is a video instructing people not to walk on the reefs, we still see it every time we go.
Yes.
And it's not the lifeguards. They don't have the authority to monitor that. So
City would not allow any employee to tell people to get off the reef.
okay,
It's a
so
liability issue, the city says.
wow.
So you can say that as a resident or as a visitor to Hanauma Bay, but the lifeguards are not allowed to tell them, and neither is any employee of the city allowed to tell them to get off the reef. But you can say that.
Interesting that they would want that liability to fall on the residents.
Yes. As long as you're not an employee of the city and county, you can say that. And you can say that very forcefully, but not an employee. We've been fighting that for years. Any other questions? Herb, did you have a question? No? Okay.
All right, question from the audience.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Something daily and even down to the penny that you've got, it is a real chunk of change. Aside from the cash as being a cash cow, our understanding was they used to take equipment, take manpower, and still kind of use that as a manpower and an equipment cash storage. Does that include, is that excluded in the settlement, or will they continue to say, look, we need 3 people or we need 5 more or something? In other words, using the Hanauma Bay equipment or manpower to go to other places to do other things.
That's absolutely out.
Is it, but it's not, it's part of the settlement? An understanding, or is it in writing? Oh, okay, good. Because I know they have taken advantage of the goodwill of good equipment and good manpower. And we have a round of applause for Lisa. She was the spark plug. Really, oh, seriously. Everybody's got to keep taking attention, and she kept the issue of attention.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
All right, we have another question online. Carl Brooks, you have a question? Go ahead.
I would just wanted to announce myself. So no, I didn't have a question.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Lisa, for sharing the good news with us. And it would be helpful, keep us posted on the kinds of repairs that are occurring.
We certainly will. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care. Other community announcements. Welcome, Elizabeth. By the way, I want to welcome Elizabeth, who's joined us here in person, and Elijah, Lee, and Joel Brilliant online. Two additional board members online. Elizabeth, you have an announcement?
Thank you. Pardon my tardiness. I wanted to announce, in addition to the second Saturdays at Kiavava Wetland, which is off Hawaii Kai Drive, we started what we call Kaiwi Afternoons Mauka. And so the lands that the community protected are now open on 2 days of the month for exploratory learning about Kaiwi, as well as helping with some restoration work that we're doing there. So there are flyers in the back, and anybody that's interested in joining us for volunteer Kaiwi afternoon, please go to lhkh.org for more information. Thank you.
Any additional community announcements?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Carl, go ahead.
Aloha. I'm Carl Brooks. I'm here to announce 2 bicycle events coming up. August 25th, we'll have Dick Evans Memorial Road Race, which is our annual road race around the island. It'll start in Kalama Valley at 5:45 under police escort through Hawaii Kai in town and back around to Kalama. So you will not see much of us unless you're up at 5:45, 5:50 in the morning, possibly. We will be in a police escort the whole event. If anyone falls out of that police escort, they are supposed to obey all rules of the road. Does anybody have any questions about the event? It is Sunday, 5:45 on the 25th.
Is that July 25th?
No, that would be August 25th. I'm sorry.
August 25th.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any questions for Carl Brooks? All right, August 25th, bicycle race at 5:45 in the morning.
And I also have one other event. Speaking for Hawaii Bicycle League, they're doing their Century Ride again this year. This is their annual event. That'll be on September 29th, starting at 6:15 at Kapilani Park. The furthest part will be going out to Swansea and back, so there'll be a lot of people on the road, but they have to obey all rules of the road as well. And that's an annual event. Everyone, I'm sure, has seen and experienced that one before.
So that one, annual event, and what is the date for that one?
That is September 29th. It is also on a Sunday morning, starting at 6:15.
All right, and we have a question here. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this in the past when you've announced the August ride in Kalama Valley, starting in Kalama. You said no one would notice if you weren't up at 5:45. Well, I normally am not up at 5:45, except on that day when I hear the loudspeakers from the start of your race. So if you can be conscious of the surrounding neighborhood and
We are
try to
very-
keep the
we-
volume.
Mr. Newsom, we are very conscious of that. We do not use speakers anymore.
Good.
In the morning, we are very, very respectful and quiet. The most you might see is the blue lights of the police officers. And you may hear some noise from them because we generally have about 17 to 20 police officers.
Okay.
But they are relatively good about keeping the noise down. And I apologize.
Have a
for
good
doing that
ride.
in the past.
I
We
would
try
fall
not to
back
do that
asleep
anymore.
anyway, so it's okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right,
Anybody
thank
else
you
have
very
any
much.
questions? All right.
Thank you very much, Carl, for sharing that information with us. Any other
Anytime.
community announcements? All right, are there any public generated issues that the community would like to share with us? These are items that are not on the agenda, but items that the community might want to bring to our attention. Okay, seeing none, we're going to be moving on to our presentations. And our first presentation is a draft plan to add delineators to the center line to reduce illegal left turns at Portlock Road. Brian Kira is our presenter from the Hawaii Department of Transportation. Brian, are you online?
Yes, I am.
All
Can
right, and
everybody
you're sharing
see
your
the-
screen.
Everybody can see?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so back in April, we did come out because of the race crosswalk. And as we understand, as part of the race crosswalk installation, there were more drivers performing illegal turns at left turns at Potluck Road. So initially we came out and we presented this layout. And through some feedback from that meeting to add some delineators on the center line, we went back and we extended the center line. So this is the revised plan. We extended the center line on both sides of the crosswalk to a double yellow. And then we added delineators in front of Potluck Road. So is there any further feedback on this?
Okay, so you are floating this to get community input. So this is just a proposal at this time.
Yes.
All right. Members of the board or members of the community who are participating, do you have comments or questions? Yes, Greg?
Yeah, we got an email from Natalie Iwasa, former member of this board. And she took a look at it and did point out that there is a driveway across from Portlock Road. And it actually serves 5 residences. It's not just even a single one. And if they were going eastbound, they wouldn't be able to turn left there, which would add to the congestion going up, having to probably turn on Lunalila Home Road and double back. I'm wondering, I like the idea of how you're sort of forcing the right turn there, making it obvious that there is no left turn. but the delineators maybe aren't necessary. And I would suggest that you just try the angled right turn lane first, and then see how that works. And perhaps the delineators wouldn't be necessary.
Brian, Greg mentioned Natalie Iwasa. She is a community member and she did submit a letter and indicated that if there was an emergency at this end of Portlock Road, emergency vehicles might need to use an alternate route, which might be longer. So that was a concern that she raised.
So when we have the delineators up and the emergency vehicles have to get in, they can just run it over.
Okay. Also, have you looked into creating some curbing or berms that might affect left, the left turns instead of
So-
delineators? Is that more costly?
Not necessarily, but let me go back to the initial configuration. And if you notice, when we didn't have the delineators, we did put in these little curbings to make it a little more sharper. So people couldn't really cut over this striped area. So that is something we could still leave in. And maybe the suggestion would be to put in this curbing to make it more difficult. And maybe instead of putting delineators all across, I think because you're talking about this driveway right here, we could cut this delineators back.
Brian, could you
plus-
expand your map so that we can just see that center portion of the slide? Members of the audience here cannot see it.
Okay, and I might have a difficulty with that. Let me see. There we go.
Much better, much better.
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Oh, is that better? On your side, you can do it. Okay, so we could add the curbing in this curve of the in and out. And we could always cut these delineators back so that people still could make left turns into their driveway, but yet block the people from making illegals left into Portlock. Of course, people may still try to make lefts out of Portlock though.
Okay, our board member from that area, Portlock Road, happens not to be here tonight, but, and I'm sure that she would have a lot to say about this, but unfortunately, she's not here. Questions from the audience? Yes, Lisa.
How much is all of this going to cost, number one, versus just taking it out?
The delineators?
The hump.
Lisa, this isn't about the hump. It's about illegal left turns into and out of Portlock Road.
I know, but I thought this was all triggered by having that hump put in there.
No.
No.
Well, Paige thought that it exacerbated the illegal left turns because people were slowing down in order to traverse the hump. And so she felt that people were taking advantage of that slowdown to try to make these illegal left turns.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with that. With the
Right. We are not talking about taking out the hump. We're talking about whether or not we need some mitigating factors or tools to eliminate the illegal left turns
Okay.
into and out of Portlock Road.
Appreciate the
Thank you.
clarification. Thank you.
Herb, go ahead.
Answer to your question on the hump, they said the average speed when they were taking note there was 60 miles an hour. So that's why they went with the hump. And kind of speaking on Paige's behalf, she basically said, people don't care. including her neighbor, who just will turn left every single time. So I think this presented is looking good to me. As a former police officer, this will definitely help the left turns, or not having the left turns either way. Thank you.
Sam?
Brian, has DOT done any sort of studies, or did they have any data on really being able to quantify the issue here with people making left turns, of accidents or number of people, every hour or so, to really justify this expenditure?
No. And based on the few times we were out there, we didn't observe any illegal left turns in or out. But we weren't there the whole day, maybe several hours. But the delineators are pretty much a low cost thing. They're probably, we install it in-house, probably about $70 a delineator.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just forgot to say it for myself that I like what they're presenting.
I like it too. Any other input? Brian, I'm glad that the Department of Transportation is looking at this. And if this is a low-cost item, perhaps we should proceed. And if there's going to be any kind of difficulty, I guess we'll hear about it. But nobody here at this time has anything to share. Anybody
So-
online? Nobody online either.
So will we try to take in consideration Natalie's comment of the left turns into the driveway? And I mean, we can try to pull back the delineators to still allow them to make the lefts into the driveway.
Okay,
I
I
don't
think
know.
that's, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I can also forward her letter to you for your information.
And then we can try and put some curbing on another side to make it more difficult for guys to make the rides out. Maybe there's on one side to keep the cost down. So, should I come back and represent the revised plans again?
If you could come back next month, that would be great. And also, we can then share this plan with HPD, and perhaps they might be able to weigh in as well at next month's meeting. Would that be okay?
Yes, that'll be okay.
All right, if you send it to me ahead of the meeting, I will make sure that a copy gets to HPD. And I will send you Natalie's testimony.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Brian while he's online? All right. Thank you very much, Brian, and we'll look forward to discussing this further with you next month.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The next item under presentations actually is a discussion. Board member had asked me to place this on the agenda so that the community becomes aware of what might be being considered in the future about windmills in the Kaiwi Channel. And so we're welcoming board and community input on this item. And I'm going to ask Elizabeth to begin the discussion.
Thank you, Chair. And board members, I'm going to ask if we could please keep this underneath Kaiwi, underneath board business, so that as we collect more information, we can also continue this conversation. So the trigger for asking for this to be put on the agenda was a grant that's circulating. This is federal, and it's a grant that's being offered. It's about $500,000 or maybe $400,000 being offered to study Hawaiian cultural practices and values of the Kaiwi Channel in support of wind farm, ocean wind farm. And the disturbing part is federally, it's the Interior Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. So I think we're going to have to get our congressional representation involved in this. And so it's a preliminary step towards better understanding that landscape from a cultural approach. But I think we already know between whale, migratory birds, and so forth, also the mere fact from a recreational standpoint, the Kaiwi Channel is used. It absolutely has no place. I know that this had come up years ago, but was with a private entity, and it was shut down. And now here it is again, being approached federally. So I think that it's really important. I'm going to reach out to Congressman Case, and I'm going to ask Representative Ward just as well, and anybody else who has connections to start inquiring about this. I did hear that there is an entity that's making their way through Waimanalo, meeting with community, and they've been doing this for well over a year, collecting information. And I think it's basically from a cultural approach to better understand the landscape. I'm assuming that they'll make their way out this way, but I want to get ahead of it. And I'll share more as I learn. And basically, that's why I asked for this to be put on the agenda. Alternative energy is vastly important, but the Kaiwi Channel, with our whales and with the seabirds, I just don't understand that. And then from the navigational standpoint of the recreation that's used. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for bringing this to our attention. And we will make sure that we monitor what's happening. We keep the Kaiwi Coast Scenic Byway on the agenda for updates, and this certainly would be an update if there's going to be any kind of progress made on this effort. Anybody else from the community, either online or in the audience, that has more information that they could share with us about what's happening on the windmill situation? Lisa?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear which federal agency is asking.
We have two entities. One is the Department of Interior Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They're the ones who are considering the Kaiwi Channel for.
I'm sorry, Department of Interior.
Oh, sorry about that. The Department of Interior Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM.
Energy Management?
Yeah, BOEM.
Well, that's really well known, of Ocean
Yeah.
Energy Management.
And Lisa, I'll forward you this about the grant. Just someone sent it to us because it references Kaiwi and they felt that we would want to know.
Well, I would think that Esther Kiayana is a veteran of the Department of Interior.
Interior.
Maybe she could help us out with what that place is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, is there anybody online that wants to speak to this issue? All right, other board members? Yes, Joseph?
Just for further understanding, the reason it was shot down a few years back, what's changed that they would be able to bring it back to the table? Because it seemed like.
I understand. I'd have to say that it's their approach. Most of the times we find the process and the approach of something like that greatly flawed. So it seems as if the entity is different. It's not a private company. It's a federal entity. And they're taking their time and they're making their way through and they're offering money to gather Hawaiian cultural information about that specific area that they're interested in.
All right, well, we will monitor this. Oh, we have another hand up. Please come on up to the microphone.
I live in Kalama Valley. This topic was really interesting to me, and I'm glad that you brought it up for discussion. I was doing a little bit of research to better understand it, and it looks like certain areas could be protected because of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, the Endangered Species Act, and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And so I think that should be a consideration, knowing that there are a lot of endangered species in the area and a lot of indigenous animals. Hawaiian monk seals pup there, birds migrate. We know the whales, the dolphins, the sharks, they live happily in that area. So just a consideration to have.
Thank you, Emily. I'm sure that we'll use all the tools in our arsenal. Any other comments or on this particular issue? All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll keep monitoring this as the months go on. So we're going to be moving to officials' reports, starting with Mayor Rick Blangiardi's representative. Bye. Welcome, Amy.
Hello. Sorry, I was listening online as I left work late today. So appreciate being here in person to provide some updates on some of the questions. So the first one that's really simple and easy answer is the construction project near Kauai High Street was that was a question as to, what is it about? What is the city doing there? And so that project is not a city project. The construction project is believed to be related to the upgrades to the wastewater pump station that is owned and maintained by Hawaii American Water. And the Department of Transportation Services may have information on the duration of the lane closure as part of the street usage permit that they would issue to the contractor, but there was no further information from DTS on the timing of that. So ongoing project, private contractor, and I could potentially learn more if and when DTS responds to the information request. Another one from board member Riley was asking about the mayor's stance on farming in Hawaii Kai in the Kamilonui Valley, I presume. Sort of a simple response, but generally the mayor supports the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan and opposes development inconsistent with or contrary to the plan, absent an amended plan produced through a rigorous community engagement process. Okay, so I got a few answers on Cocoa Crater Stables repair that I know has come up not only here, but also in the town hall that the mayor had not so long ago. And so the first is what's happening with the CIP project that was in last year's budget. So doesn't really sound like this is anything new, but the project is currently in the planning and design phase. And the Department of Design and Construction has consulted with the Department of Parks and Recreation on developing the scope of work for the project to determine design, which will include the construction of access, road and parking lot, water line, sewer line, I'm not even sure, and pertinent improvements at the Cocoa Crater Botanical Gardens and Cocoa Crater Stables. And so I think Director Thielen pointed out that because that funding was under CIP, that it has, and it's bond funded, the work has to be something that can endure beyond 20 years. So it wasn't any of the immediate projects that were hoped to be pursued. So the department and the administration requested some additional money, and it was in the process, in the budget process last time I was here. So what has transpired, I think, is probably easier understood in the email I got from the director. So what she told me is that the city put some funds into the operating budget to cover the cost of demolition of a condemned structure at the stables. They are conducting a standard hazard assessment. She mentions that often old buildings contain lead paint, which requires materials to be disposed of in an appropriate manner. But then once that's completed, we understand the city will proceed with that demolition. And this was discussed, she mentioned last time when she was there, but we didn't know for sure if the funds would make it into the final operating budget, not CIP budget, and they did. So the funds in the CIP budget cannot support demolition because they come from bond sales. Same issue with the earlier appropriation. CIP funds can only support new construction. So the CIP funds in the budget for supporting that new water stables line in the gardens. And as the board recalls, that water line is subject to frequent breaks. Horses cannot survive more than a day without water. Each time a break occurs, it's been a serious emergency for the stables. The water line is over 50 years old. It's made of iron and is at the point of disintegration. Design, permitting, and construction for this project will take years. It's not something that could be done quickly once the water line breaks beyond repair. And either we work on it now and get this done, or we wait until the permanent break and the stables would be forced to close due to lack of water. Our preference is to get the line replaced and keep the operations in place. So the additional 400,000 that the mayor just signed into law in the budget on June 21 is an appropriation of 400,000. That includes 45,000 for planning, another 5,000 for design, and 350,000 to plan, design, and construct improvements to the Cocoa Head riding stables, infrastructure, and facilities. So that is not the water line improvement funding. That is the funding I understand from the previous fiscal year CIP appropriation. And those are the questions that I had posed back to the administration.
And Amy, could you forward that email from the director to me?
Sure.
Thank you. Questions for the mayor's representative? Herb?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Every once in a while, it's useful news, I hope.
That it's very good news. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there was advocacy also, so.
Yeah. Comment?
Thank you for pursuing.
On the good news, I'd have to say I very much appreciate the mayor's response and citing the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. That means a lot to us.
Great.
So thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for the mayor's representative? Anybody online? Okay.
Anything for updates? I saw some other stuff on the agenda, but no news on the shooting range.
So we haven't made any progress in terms of increasing the hours of operation for the shooting range?
I think the last update was with regard to hiring being the critical factor in their ability to expand the hours.
Okay. Could you follow up maybe next month and let us know when we might be able to see an increase in the operational hours? I understand, are we still restricted just to weekends? Or will they open up during weekdays?
For the general public.
For the general public, yes.
Definitely will.
All right. And Amy, you heard our discussion about the windmill issue.
Yes, I did.
And so that is going to remain under Kaiwi Coast, for us to kind of monitor how it progresses. But we wanted the community and the city and county to be aware that, we're looking at this.
Sorry, I've been
issue.
online since the beginning. I just didn't make it here in time for.
Okay, thank you. All right. I don't see any other questions, Amy, so thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yep, thank you.
Is there a representative from City Council Chair Tommy Waters' office?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Amanda Zabella here for Council Chair Waters. I apologize, I was having difficulty logging in on my computer, so I'm on my phone. And I'll get the information that I wanted to include in the chat as quickly as I can. But I do have a few updates to share. Last meeting, we discussed a couple of bills at the council that were moving forward to third reading, and I just wanted to report back that Bill 52 relating to large detached dwellings, also known sometimes as monster homes, as well as Bill 6 relating to permits, both passed and were adopted by the council. And then I wanted to report back on Resolution 24-105 CD1, initiating amendments to the revised charter relating to salaries. So I know this was a big issue covered and discussed during the last round of salary commission hearings and decision. So just wanted to highlight that and let you folks know that this proposed amendment will be on the November 5th general ballot. And it aims to cap annual salary increases for the council members at 5% using a formula used for collective bargaining. So that will be on the ballot. And then wanted to highlight the Vision Zero Action Plan, the draft plan that came out from our Department of Transportation Services Complete Streets effort. They are looking for feedback on the draft plan actually through tomorrow. But I'm sure they'll be happy to accept feedback even after that if you happen to not get it in. But if you have any comments or feedback, please feel free to share that with us or directly to the Complete Streets team. And I'll put that information in the chat. Tomorrow, Planning Chair Esther Kia Aina is hosting an info briefing on the PUC PD. So I know that's another topic a lot of folks are interested in. So that's tomorrow, June 27th, 9 a.m. in the Planning and Economy meeting for anyone interested. And then I wanted to let you folks know that we received a request from the USAPA, that's the USA Pickleball Association. The ambassador for the East Side requested that the 6 pickleball courts at Camilo Iki be dedicated with nets because right now they're temporary where folks bring their own nets and equipment. And so DPR reviewed the request and said that they're happy to consider it after they complete their current set of plans to implement more pickleball courts at various parks throughout the island. So we'll circle back to that sometime later, but that request is under consideration. And then we've received several requests for Camilo Iki drainage ditch maintenance. I know that's a concern for many. We did receive a response from Department of Facility Maintenance. There's a request, a service request initiated, and they are anticipating the work being completed by the end of this year. That's still some time out, but as we know, they are very backed up always with stream and ditch and other waterway maintenance, and they do work their way through the list based on priority and a risk of flood. So although it may seem worrisome to some folks, right now there are a whole list of other streams that are higher on the list of priorities in terms of risk of flood. But we look forward to seeing that maintenance completed as quickly as possible. Next is we received word yesterday that the first nest of 2024 was spotted at Sandy Beach, the first Honu nest of 2024. It looks like right now the hatching window for this first nest begins around August 10th. So we're already working with Department of Parks to discuss the lighting situation, and they were very good to work with us in the community last year to turn down and even turn off the lights during the appropriate period. So we look forward to working with them again to make sure that that's done. And then I had one follow-up for Member Alton, but I don't think she's there tonight. She had requested a number of emergency preparedness booklets, and I have those for her, but I'll get with her separately tomorrow. So that's all I have for tonight. If anyone has any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to try to answer or take back.
All right, questions for the council chair's office? Well, Amanda, I think it's an easy night for you. No questions from the group. Thank you very
Beautiful.
much for joining us.
Thank you.
Is there a representative from Governor Josh Green's office. I understand that they are doing some shifting of the governor's representatives to the neighborhood boards, and I'm not sure that one has been assigned yet to Hawaii Kai. Okay, nobody's stepping up, so I guess one has not yet been appointed. All right, is there someone from Senator Stanley Chang's office?
Good evening. I'm Ayla Matthew from Senator Chang's office. So I'm just going to start by placing some links below in the chat. So first, I have linked our monthly district newsletter, and then below that, I have linked our link to sign up for our housing newsletter. So for our announcements, firstly, the Senate will convene a special session tomorrow, Wednesday, June 26, to confirm 4 judges, Rebecca Copeland, Brian Costa, Diane Medeiros, and Stephen Nichols. And then for our next announcement, after May 7th of 2025, all residents will need to get the Real ID driver's license or state identification card to board domestic flights or enter federal facilities. Real ID Hawaii driver's licenses will have a gold circle with a star outline in the center of the upper portion of the card. To get a Real ID compliant driver's license on Oahu, make an appointment up to 6 months prior to your license's expiration date at a driver licensing center. Appointments can be made online, and I will also put that in the chat. So right there is where you can make an appointment. And that's all we have for our announcements. If anybody has any questions, I will take them back to Senator Chang's office.
All right, are there any questions for Senator Chang's representative? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Gayla, for joining us. Oh,
Chair.
hold on, one
Well,
question. Go ahead,
to
Greg.
you to possibly download and forward the links to his office newsletter, and she mentioned a housing newsletter. So it would be interesting to see Senator Chang's word on housing.
Okay.
You know, we don't have access to that
Right.
link now.
Jeff says that he puts it into the Google Draft, but I'm going to have him take a snapshot of the links and then I'll send it out in an email to the board members. All right. Thank you very much, Gayla. Is there anyone from Senator Chris Lee's office? Senator Lee, are you online? All right, I guess not. So Representative Gene Ward, thank you for joining us again, Gene. He's here.
Sure. Aloha, members. Mr. Pugh, congratulations. You're now a good volunteer. Did you get your paycheck yet? Okay, too. It's gratitude and pizza. That's what we do for volunteers at our office. I've given my report. Basically, it's a double header about 2 town hall meetings. One, if any of you live in condos or townhouses, or even in your own home, you're going to find, like I did, hey, you no longer have any hurricane insurance. But what's happening mostly is the condominium crisis, and we're going to have a town hall meeting to see if we can come up with some solutions. It's really getting serious, like 10 times the amount that some condo dwellers are having. That was, I think, from the peninsula. You live in the Mauna Loa, Sam. I know you probably have got some sticker shock like most. And this is something that I hope, other than the convening of the Senate for appointing judges, we actually convene the House and the Senate to consider a special session. I interviewed recently with the realtors, and they said, wait till the end of the summer when the word really gets out what's happening. The word is now slowly percolating how bad things are, but it hasn't reached the crescendo, which they said by the end of the summer, which would be in another couple of months, that we ain't seen nothing yet. And you know, the saying is, when the people lead, the politicians follow. And that's where when people say, I mean, particularly if you're old or if you're on a fixed income and your rates go from a few hundred to a few thousand, I mean, that's almost intolerable. So I have confidence there's a high probability that there will be a special session. Cannot say for sure, but it's about condo insurance. Now, having said that, I want to invite you all to the town hall meeting, which is going to come up on the 2nd of July. And there's some superstars, including the head of the Insurance Commission, Gordon Ito, and Sue Savio, whose father basically wrote the condominium law for the state of Hawaii, which has been adopted all over the mainland, and basically the state of the art of the world of condominium law. And then we have some private companies. And what we want is have a lot of people who live in the condominium say, hey, here's what I'm going through. This is what I'm experiencing. And so far, it's with Representative Hashim and myself as the sponsors. And if people can't make it, it'll be live streamed by Alelo and be recorded. So that is on one side what is happening. And the other side, I should probably yield to Judy Ni'i because she's the chief of the farmers in the valley. And I think maybe later on she's going to say a few things. Or should I yield my time already to talk about a town hall meeting? Madam Chair, is that possible to yield a few minutes?
I will be happy to give Judy as much time as she wants a little later in the
A
meeting.
little later? Okay, let's even, so I get to keep my time, Madam Chair, right? Okay, moving right along, a couple of announcements other than we've got the town hall meeting for the condominium owners, but also the town hall meeting. And it's all tentative. The point of bringing this brochure for the farmers is that we want to make sure that people know on the date, which is now August 6th, that is a date which we hope all of you will be able to attend because let's face it, there's 80 some acres of which if that does not remain in agriculture, Hawaii Kai as we know it will not be Hawaii Kai. And your mana'o and what you feel about the development issues of the community. Like Mr. Pugh, we asked you last month, what do you think about development? The question now is, what do you think about the farmers leaving Kamilunui Valley? And I know Elizabeth will have a lot to say about that. So anyways, this is the town hall meeting. There'll probably be speakers of the farmers. We're hoping to get Jack Wong from Kamehameha Schools, Bishop State, or one of their decision makers. So it's a good discussion. It's not, a gotcha of any sort, but it's like, hey, what's the future for the Judy Ni'is and the others who are in the valley who are farmers? And if you remember, this was what Mr. Kaiser in the beginning said, we got to have a bread basket for the people of Hawaii Kai. So that's the double header on the town halls. Just a few announcements. 4th of July happens to be the same first Thursday of the month for the Beer Summit. So in honor of the 248th year of the founding of our nation, we're not going to have a Beer Summit. But the following month, we're going to have Professor who's the good? Oh, Professor Milner. Sorry. How could I forget that? Because there's some really hotly contested areas that when you get Danny Noy-san running for an office, that's going to be something he'll probably speak on, as well as other possible results that will come up with the primer. So Professor Milner, because of the timing of the season, he will be in the August 1st Beer Summit. And remember, the Beer Summit doesn't have beer. It's for discussion. It's a leadership forum, and it's at the Oahu Club now. And Robin Flanagan has just been a real angel accommodating the public. Another announcement is that Roger Morton of the DOT is doing road calming for Hawaii Kai. As you remember, we had a lot of discussion about the speeders up and down Hawaii Kai Drive, Kamilauiki School. And from the beginning of Hawaii Kai, Mr. P, you're from Hawaii. Oh, no, you're from Hawaii. Did you know there's never been a crosswalk in Hawaii Kai? From its very beginning to now, not even one crosswalk. So we're going to talk about the one where there's a community park, to talk about the possible design of a park there. Mr. Morton is going to be talking about that. Kamilauiki School, how to calm traffic there. And there's even talk of a roundabout at Hawaii Kai Drive and Kealoha, which to some people is rather provocative. As you know, if you go to the UK, every quarter mile there's a roundabout. Another announcement is Madam Chair, this is unsolicited, but as I was listening to the Neighborhood Board report from the Board of Water Supply, hey, if we got the Board of Water Supply reporting to you guys, we should have HECO come and say, no blackouts this week, but next week, be careful, we're going to shut down one. I really think HECO should, I'm not trying to put their feet to the fire, but I think it would be helpful for HECO to report to the Neighborhood Board, because our office gets a lot of calls. Hey, what's with the shutdown? And this is not even Chinatown, where thousands of dollars have been lost. And I've been in contact with Costco and the manager of the town hall, the town center. Those guys are really upset because they pay a lot of money for rent and their electricity goes off. And if it's food-based stuff, they lose a lot. It's an arm and a leg. So unsolicited suggestion, bring HECO, make them say nice things or kind of tell you what's going on. And Jim Kelly, by the way, we had a beer summit with. He was very open, he gave the facts in a way that wasn't speaking down or speaking up to people. And again, I would suggest that HECO be called to task. Okay, lastly, SB 3202. Everybody knows that? Everybody who's got a piece of property that's got a couple of thousand square feet, you can get 2 to 4 ADUs. The ball that the state legislature kicked, which we almost defeated in the House by 4 votes, kicked the ball to the city council. So again, my unsolicited proposal, keep the city council's feet to the fire. Make sure that when they spell out what they're going to do with 3202, i.e. allowing 2 to 4 ADUs on the property, they're the ones that the state says, you guys decide. So we punted to them. But if we don't keep the city council apprised, you know, this is the monster houses cut up into pieces, 3 or 4 of them instead of one big one. And any of these developers who have wanted to come in and do Airbnb, this is the developer's dream. You come in and buy a piece of property and just cut up into small pieces. So please consider the city council. Having said that, Madam Chair, that is the end of my report. Aloha.
Thank you very much, Representative Ward. Are there questions for the representative, either online or here in the audience? No questions, Representative. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Is there anyone from Representative Mark Hasham's office? Online? Is there anyone from our congressional legislative officers? Okay. We did get a brochure dropped off from Congressman Ed Case's office. And I do know that his staff has indicated that they will be coming to attend our meetings maybe on a quarterly basis. So hopefully they'll be here soon. All right, we're going to be moving on to board business. Again, much of this has been already covered earlier in our meeting. There is no update on the Cocoa Head shooting range in terms of the operational hours. The mayor's representative will report back next month as to whether or not the hours will be expanded to include weekdays, how soon that would occur. So no further information on the Cocoa Head shooting range at this time. We did also get an update on the Cocoa Crater stables. There are funds that have been set aside for this year in order to demolish some of the old dilapidated buildings on the stables property. So we're making some progress. I'm going to be inviting Aloha Writing Lessons to make a presentation sometime soon so that we can find out at what point the stables might be reopened to the public for public use. Update on Kaiwi Coast Scenic Byway. We are just monitoring what's happening with the Kaiwi Channel windmills. We don't have very much information on it at this point, but we wanted to bring it to the community's attention that it is something that we may have to watch in the future in terms of how far it will progress and at what point we might need to mobilize our input. Update on Camilo Nui Valley agriculture. I'd like to invite Judy Nee, one of the farmers in the area, to come and let us know what is happening with the farm property.
Hi, I'm Judy Nee. You know, we haven't really heard from Kamehameha Schools, but I've heard through other farmers that they have been in contact with our land asset manager, but he has been really non-committal. He hasn't said anything that we haven't heard, especially when they came to the last board meeting when Melissa came and spoke to the board. So we're getting pretty anxious because there are some new farmers that have come into the valley that seem very genuine in their efforts to, you know, start farming and become a viable business. And some of them are doing really well. There's one farmer who has started a program from the farm to the schools, providing vegetables, and he also does restaurants and things like that. And I got to tell you, you know, it doesn't only affect me or the individual farmers, because some of us have employees, and one of my employees asked me, you know, have you talked to everybody else, galvanize some support so I can have some kind of security that you're going to be here after the lease ends next year. So I'm very thankful for Representative Jean Ward for sponsoring a town hall meeting. And maybe we can get Kamehameha Schools and maybe other stakeholders to collaborate with us so that we can get a more definitive idea of what their vision is and what they intend to do with the valley. Because, you know, even though I don't know if you know this, but my father-in-law, who was the last founding member of the Camilo Nui Valley Co-op, just passed away in March. So, you know, there's some children that are still there, you know, like my husband, but we want to be sure that the lands in Camilo Nui Valley will be sustained beyond us so that new farmers can readily come in and become viable businesses. So we want that security for all of Hawaii Kai, not just for us.
Thank you, Judy, for sharing that. Are there questions from board members or the community to Judy? Yes, Jean.
Hi, Judy. Thanks for your update. Can you educate me a little bit about how long are these leases? This says they're expiring July 2025. Are these like?
It expires at the end of June 2025.
Okay. And these are like 25-year leases?
No, it was 55 years.
55-year leases.
So it was a long.
These are
time
long
ago. Yeah.
leases.
So it was when, like for my father-in-law, is when his kids were very young.
Wow.
So they helped him build the business. And like I said, my father-in-law is the last one to pass away. So.
And how many are these individual leases for individual?
Yeah, some of most of the farmers have maybe one parcel, which is 3 acres. Like for us, we have 2 parcels, so we have 6 acres, and each family signed a lease for that 55 years.
And do you know how many different parcels that there are?
Well, originally there were 13, but now, you know, like some have left, so we don't really know because now they've gone into licensing so that it was a very short-term period that those farmers were allowed to.
I see. Okay, so around a dozen leases.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Judy, when you say that there were 13 parcels, each one was 3 acres?
No, I mean 13 farmers. Most of them had 2 acres, but I mean 2 acres. Most of them had 2 parcels, which is 6 acres. Some had 3 acres. And I don't know, Elizabeth.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
So I just want to clarify that the floor of the valley where the farmers are is about 87 acres. And then Judy was referring to her father-in-law. Those farmers were the last of the farmers that were in this area when Henry J. Kaiser was developing this area. And the negotiations was with Henry J. Kaiser with this 55-year lease or so, of which during the past 10, 15 years, you've had lease negotiations. It's not like you had that set price for 55 years. So I know that you've had lease negotiations, and I just wanted to mention that, and that you had indicated that the new people that came in had what we called 5-year licensing agreements, which really you can't do much of anything in 5 years except get to understand the land. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. So thank you, Judy, for being here. Appreciate it.
And many of us, like we would like to make improvements, but with the lease ending at end of June next year, it's not feasible because it's very uncertain.
I got a follow-up question. And this land is all zoned agricultural?
So it's agriculture at the county level, and then at the state level, it's considered urban, which it would have been nice if back in the day it was moved into agriculture.
Mhm.
And often you'll find landowners or developers looking at the state designation and saying, oh, I can convert that. But all that thought, earlier we mentioned the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan, and in that document, there's this boundary. And Judy's farm and the other farmers are outside of that boundary at the county level. And that plan takes us through 2040. So that means if you want to move that boundary, there's a lot that you're going to have to do. So if you want to change the dynamics of that valley, there's a lot at the county level you have to do. Our biggest concern is that agriculture may stay, but we don't know what that's going to look like. What is it going to be, a big solar farm? We're not going to have a resiliency or food sustainability opportunity, that sort of thing.
And we want to thank the board and Livable Hawaii Kaihui because you've pressed for that East Honolulu sustainable land. If we didn't have that, we'd be up the creek. So I'm very grateful to all of you.
I'm just wondering if there's something we can do to make it clear to Kamehameha schools that not renewing these leases and not continuing the production of food in the valley would be something that is going to rile us all up.
I think when Kamehameha Schools came out and they did those community outreach meetings, some people participated, some of you guys might not have even known about it. They did indicate that one of the #1 things that came up was Kamilanui Valley. So I think that they recognize that the community's, regard for Kamilanui Valley. The question is going to be what's their regard and what's their level of aloha for those lands. To that end, I do want to say that there are fallow lands out there. So if anyone drove out there right now, you'd look and you go, what's going on back here? You have to look at the valley with great opportunity for natural watershed qualities and for having a better lease or longer period of time to do these capital improvements and then bring in the conservation and pieces of resiliency and sustainability. That's what the larger community and that's what these farmers want to do. And some farmers have presented to Kamehameha Schools some of those ideas. It's just a matter of the landowner, and we have to respect them, acknowledging it and wanting to work with the community. And if not, and they don't have aloha for those lands, I think Representative Ward says here on his flyer, let's get creative about how we protect them from a community-based standpoint, like acquisition.
Any other comments or questions for Judy? Or on the whole agricultural issue in Hawaii Kai? All right, Judy, we're going to continue to monitor this. And I think that board members, I was going to bring this up as an announcement a little later on in the meeting, but I'm going to bring it up now. You'll recall about a month ago in the newspaper, there was a very small article about lands that were being sold to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And it referenced a 3-acre parcel in Hawaii Kai. And none of us knew what that was. And I had sent an email to Todd Gray from Kamehameha Schools to find out where this parcel was. And he did send me an email back. And he apologized that we had to read about it in the newspaper because he said he was not aware that the transaction had been completed and he was not in a position, to let us know about it earlier. However, since the information was released by DHHL, he was able to confirm that it is the 3-acre parcel across from the Hawaii Kai post office that has been sold to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands for development into residential residences for the beneficiaries. So that is part of, I guess it's 2.88 acres. It's a marina lot. And the parcel became part of an RFP that was issued by DHHL. And at that time, the negotiation process was confidential. And he's able to discuss this with us now because the general transaction became public during the Hawaiian Homes Commission approval process, although the transaction has not closed. And this was at the time he sent me the email. They're selling the property as is and will not be involved in any potential future development of the property. So in terms of what the development will look like on that particular parcel, we will have to wait to see what plans the Department of Hawaiian Homelands has for that 2.88 acres. However, it will be part of the report that Kamehameha Schools will be bringing back to the board sometime in early fall. Yes, Greg.
Yeah, I had first been alerted from David Monk, whose wife Amy Monk used to be on this board, saying, oh, something's going on. He didn't have any detail, but it looked like the land was being surveyed or whatever as it being prepared for sale. And then I kind of kept a lookout and I saw the Department of Hawaiian Homelands announcement, but there was some detail, but I'm forgetting all of it. Did anyone else read it? Because it was either for like working class housing, and I'm remembering either 25 or 44 units, kind of a big difference there, but the memory. But even at 25, that's quite a few for 3 acres. But it does appear to be going forward. I mean, when the article ran, I think this article was in Civil Beat, it looked like it was pretty definite. And now you're confirming that it seems to be done deal.
Todd also in his email indicated that as part of this KAUKO effort, we continuously evaluate our lands and potential activities, uses, and plans that support the well-being of the Native Hawaiian community, as well as all Kama'aina. So I'm sure that this sale of this property is going to be referenced in their report back to us when they let us know what plans they have in store for their other leased properties in the area. So hopefully it will be within the next couple of months that they'll be able to come back to us. All right, that is all the board business that we have at this time. I don't believe any of our board committees have met in the last month, so I don't think we have any board committee reports. So approval of the regular meeting minutes for May 25. These minutes were distributed. Are there any calls to revise or correct any of the minutes? All right, if not, the minutes are approved as distributed. Other board announcements. I do have a couple of announcements that I'd like to make, board members. Yesterday, I learned that one of our board members, Stacy Martin, is not going to be able to continue on the board, and she has indicated that she is formally resigning. So at next month's meeting, we will have an at-large seat that will be vacant and will be agendized. I'd also like to let the board members know that at next month's meeting, we have our annual election of officers. So we'll be spending some time electing our board officers, and something that I'd like you to think about. I was talking to Jeffrey Jones earlier about when we hold our meetings and whether we might want to consider recessing during one of the summer months, in addition to our regular recess in December. And as you can see, for tonight's meeting, we have a number of board members who are traveling and not able to attend. So you might want to consider whether or not we'd like to look at maybe 1 month off during the summer, and we'll bring this up at next month's meeting. Yes, Herb?
I don't know if we can jump to it now, or do we have to put it into the minutes for the opening? There's a reason.
No.
Kind of weird that things happen in weird ways. Lisa Bishop asked me if there was any at-large seats available.
There will be an at-large seat, Lisa. I will post it on the agenda for July, and we will look at appointing a volunteer who might want to serve on our board. But if you are interested, I urge you to return at next month's meeting. Thank you very much. Are there any other board announcements? All right, tonight's going to be an early night. I think the earliest night we've ever had. And I don't think anybody's going to complain. I'm going into our closing announcement. The next regular meeting of the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board is Tuesday, July 30 at 7 p.m. at the Hahaioni Elementary School cafeteria and on WebEx. The Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board regular meetings are cablecast on Olelo Channel 49 on the second Monday of the following month at 9 p.m. and repeating on that month's third Friday at 7 a.m. Videos can also be seen online at olelo.org or via the honolulu.gov Neighborhood Commission Office/boards. I want to thank everybody for coming during the summer. Judy, thank you very much for staying with us and giving us an update on the farms. And members of the audience and people online, thank you for joining us tonight. Meeting is adjourned.